Good evening and welcome to the April 14th, 2020 regular board meeting of the Roswell Independent School District. I now call this meeting to order. May I have a roll call, please, Ms. Whitcamp?
Alan Getty,
Yes.
James Edwards,
Go ahead and unmute, James.
say it again,
Go ahead and unmute,
Yeah.
James. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Hope Morales,
Yes. And Julie, we can't hear you very well.
Mona Kirk,
Yes.
Hilda Sanchez.
Yes.
Thank you. We just gonna do the Pledge of Allegiance?
Say that we're going to
Okay, we're gonna have the Pledge of Allegiance.
Good
By
evening,
us.
Superintendent
By
Cotler,
Valley
President
By
Getty,
Valley
members
View
of the board.
Elementary.
It's my
Oh,
pleasure to introduce the
they're
fifth
right. I
grade
don't know
student
if you guys can
council
see.
who will be reciting
They're up here
the
on
Pledge
the
of
screen.
Allegiance via Zoom this evening, a first for Roswell, since we are staying at home in quarantine.
Okay.
What do we need to do?
Yes, I see them.
This is your student council member Meyer speaking. I will
Okay.
be introducing the student council members who will be here today. Carmelo, Sarias, who is our secretary,
Oh, okay.
Addison, who is our treasurer, and myself, who is the president.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God.
indivisible with liberty and justice for all.
I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico,
We missed
the
that.
symbol of perfect friendships among united cultures.
Thank you again, board members, for the opportunity for us to be able to present to you this evening. Thank you very much. Stay safe and be healthy.
Okay. All right.
We learned something, that doesn't work.
Oh, on YouTube they heard it?
Okay.
Okay, we didn't hear it here. All right. Are there any modifications to the agenda?
Mr. President, there are no modifications to the agenda.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Okay. that was-
Second.
Second was Hope. So I
Yes.
have Ms. Kirk, and then a second by Ms. Morales. And we have to do a roll call vote. So-
Alan Getty,
Yes.
James Edwards,
Yes.
Hope Morales,
Yes.
Mona Kirk,
Yes.
Hilda Sanchez.
Yes.
All right. Now we have information items?
Information on Mr. President, members of the board. We have 3 items. They work off of the policy 8051, and that is the requirements for the internet and teacher and student interaction using phones, internet, and cameras. What was needed added to our policy, and these are not policies, this will be administrative information. It will be administrative procedure, are 3 different procedures that I'd like to have the board look at tonight. Does not require a vote, but it's there for everyone to see. We have sent these out to the principals and have asked them to share with the staff because of the online activities, the phone activities, and we want to make sure our teachers are safe and that we have a clear guidance on what we need to do with staff conduct with students while on the videos. So I'll stand for any questions from the board at this time, if you have any.
Mike, this is Mona.
Yes,
Have
ma'am.
you had any feedback from the principals or the administration?
I have not had any feedback, Ms. Kirk.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Mike, this is Hope. Thank you for doing this. I think this is very important at this time. Once this is finalized, if we can share anything with parents, I know I've had some parents with concerns about their children using online programs because of hacking that could happen. I just want them to be aware of steps that we're putting into place to help ensure their child's safety during this time.
We'll be happy to, Ms. Morales, to put this on our webpage and have it as part of our continuing learning plan so that it's available for all to see.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. Mr. President, that's all I have on.
Okay. Now is the time for inquiries and general comments. Ms. Whitcamp, has anyone requested to chime in tonight?
No, sir, they have not.
Okay. Then let's move on to the approval of the minutes.
Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting of March 10th, 2020.
Okay. Are there any corrections or deletions to the minutes of the regular board meeting of March 10th, 2020?
I found one thing, I don't know if that might be a typo or not, but under the notes on Equity Council, the last sentence states all schools are going to take a different approach. I believe we meant to say all districts are going to take a different approach. I don't know if that matters or not, or if it's supposed to be schools or districts, but I did come across that.
Good point, Ms. Morales. And it could also be charter schools because they're separate from school districts. So we'll make that correction.
Thank you. With that correction, I motion to approve.
I second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Roll call, please. She's writing stuff down, so hold on.
Alan Getty,
Yes.
James Edwards,
Yes.
Hope Morales,
Yes.
Mona Kirk,
Yes.
Hilda Sanchez.
Yes.
All right, and now the consent agenda is up.
Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend approval of the consent agenda. That's the approval of March bills 2020, approval of the April bills 2020, approval of the April bars 2020, and temporary cash transfer.
Okay, any questions?
Yes, I have one question.
Go ahead.
Hello? All right, on the temporary cash transfer, what does that mean on the temporary cash transfer?
Mr. Cole?
Yes, sir. Superintendent Gottlieb, Board President Alan Getty, members of the board. So that temporary cash transfer there that you see, if you look at it closely, you'll see that we're moving $6 million from the operational cash balance into the public schools capital outlay fund for school construction. I think our follow-up in May, we will come back and request, if you approve this cash transfer, to move those operational cash or that portion of the operational cash balance to this capital outlay school construction fund. If you approve that, then in May we'll come back and try to bring to your authorization designating those funds as restricted specifically for school construction. And the reason for that is that we've got a lot of schools under construction. We've got Del Norte, we've got Mesa wrapping up design. Nancy Lopez is in the hopper as well with their ed specs. Then we've got Mountain View and we've got Washington Avenue. We had secured matching funds on those projects to move forward with our bonds. And now with the current economic state of affairs and pending economic state of affairs, whether it's oil and gas or coronavirus, we know that there's going to be some issues there based on past history. And Mr. Gottlieb was good enough to give me some information from the LFC that kind of confirms some of our suspicions, or they have the same suspicions that we do. So we'd like to move those cash balance from the operational fund into that capital outlay construction fund for school construction. Designate that as restricted for audit purposes when we designate it in the cash balances of the financial audit for next year, and secure those funds to maintain the momentum that we've got with our construction projects. We don't want to neglect or not follow through, particularly with that Mesa project that is ongoing in the design phase.
Okay. All right.
So Mr. Cole, if we don't move the funds out of the cash balance, are we fearful that the state may be sweeping some of that? Is that part of the reason for doing this now?
I think, yes, I think we're almost certain that it's no secret and it's understood. I don't blame anybody for the current state of affairs. It is what it is. But I do think that we're about to get an increase to our SEG for initial budget purposes, and we're going to have a required 4% salary increase for budget purposes. And then almost as suddenly as we get that into budget and have that approved, we're going to have a special legislative session that's going to cut unit values, appropriations, capital outlay funds, all of those things, and sweep cash balances or clawback, whatever you want to call it. Like I said, that puts our school construction that we planned for years, in some cases decades. And so we want to make sure that we secure those projects, at least the ones that we've moved this far forward with in that. Now, they could certainly come up with some things to pull cash balances from all funds. It wouldn't be advisable, but I can see the necessity on the state's part and wouldn't disagree with that. With them pulling cash balances, I think that's almost a certainty.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other discussion?
Nope.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Made by
Second.
Mr. Edwards. Who seconded? I'm sorry.
Mona.
Thank you, Ms. Kirk. All right, roll call, please.
Ellen Getty,
Yes.
James Edwards,
Yes.
Hope Morales,
Yes.
Mona Kirk,
Yes.
Hilda Sanchez,
Yes.
All right, next we have action items. First, we have approval of the Rio Rancho Community Foundation $2,500 STEM grant for robotics.
Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend approval of the Rio Rancho Community Foundation RRCF $2,500 STEM grant for robotics.
Do we have any discussion?
Yes, I'd like to, which robotics team is that?
It is the I think it's Andrea Batista from Roswell High School, but she's also been working with, hold on a second.
It's early college high
Early
school.
college high
Early
school.
college high school.
I just wanted to make sure I got the right school at that. It's the early college high school.
Okay, because there's two of them on here for early college high school for the grants, and that's why I was asking about that first one.
One is a grant and one is actual money received.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay, any other discussion? If not, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
So, second, I hope.
Okay, Mr. Edwards made the motion, Ms. Morales seconded?
Ellen Getty,
Yes.
James Edwards,
Yes.
Hope Morales,
Yes.
Mona Kirk,
Yes.
Hilda Sanchez.
Yes.
All right, next we have approval of the, and I don't know how to say this, Luibo LLC $1,000 donation to early college high school robotics.
Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend approval of the Lolibos LLC $1,000 donation to the early high school college robotics. This is an actual check for $1,000. It's not the grant. You had approved the grant earlier.
Right, okay. Is there any discussion?
I have a question, Mr. President.
Yes.
That money meant to be for this summer or for next year?
To assist to cover the travel expenses of the robotics competition and to purchase parts and equipment to build the robots. Since everything's been canceled up to this point, Ms. Sanchez, I would imagine it would pick up any other travel that's coming up, and then definitely for the materials for the robots.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Good question. All of these are good questions. All right, anything else? All right, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Edwards, and was that Ms. Kirk?
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Kirk with
With
the
the
second.
raspy voice.
All right, roll call.
Ellen Getty,
Yes?
James Edwards,
Yes.
Hope Morales,
Yes.
Mona Kirk,
Yes.
Hilda Sanchez.
Yes.
Okay, next we have temporarily suspending policy I-6711 IKAR on student grades and assessment.
Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend approval to temporarily suspend policy I-6711 IKA-R on student grades and assessment.
Okay, is there any discussion? Okay, if there is no discussion, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
So moved.
Okay, I got Ms. Kirk on a motion and Ms. Morales on a second.
Ellen
Ready?
Getty,
Yes.
James Edwards,
Yes.
Hope Morales,
Yes.
Mona Kirk,
Yes.
Hilda Sanchez.
Yes.
All right, and now we have approval of the pass-fail student grading system.
Mr. President, members of the board, I'd like to recommend approval of the pass-fail student grading system. Along with that, we also have the alternative demonstration of skill. I have Ms. Cole and Mr. Bolaños online to help answer any questions. The pass-fail has been an interesting topic statewide, nationwide, on how we move forward on that. Mr. Getty,
Okay,
is there any discussion?
is there any, I have a question, so, which is, I have one, and so maybe I'll do this question, and then if anybody else has any. So, on the pass-fail, I guess this is just a rant, how does that work with their GPAs? Just, how will that work?
We've had lots of discussion with a variety of people nationally and locally being the state of New Mexico superintendents, and there's lots of different feelings and issues. The state, when they first came out with it, they highly suggested, they've backed off a little bit on that, but they highly suggested we go to a pass-fail because of the inequity in the whole process, and the kids being out of school, not everybody having the same opportunities, no matter how hard you do, teachers not in the classroom teaching with the kids. So what's going to happen is it will be based for your GPA on 7 semesters,
Okay,
not the 8th semester. So if you're a senior, there's 8 semesters in total. So that will be a cumulative effect. The problem with the issue is most people can see that for the freshmen, that's going to happen now for freshman, junior, sophomore, senior years. So there's a continuation on that. Mr. Bolaños or Ms. Cole, do you want to add on to that?
Mr. Gottlieb, I don't have anything to add to that. I think you explained it very well. We've had a lot of discussion, particularly with our secondary principals, our high school principals, on the pass-fail and how it impacts the GPA, and then things like eligibility for athletics. And so we had that 7-semester conversation and ultimately came to the decision that we needed to go with the pass-fail.
is there
I
any?
have a question, Mr. President.
Yes, go ahead.
On the pass-fail student grading system, does this ensure that they maintain their placement for graduation, or seniors?
This is Mrs. Sanchez asking a question regarding the senior graduation. Did I hear you right, Ms. Sanchez?
That's correct.
All right. All 3 high schools and early college have been working very hard with either testing, alternative demonstration, homework assignments, or a variety of topics to make sure that our seniors have the opportunity to graduate and either raise their scores or continue with their scores as is. So they have spent a tremendous amount of time as they are working with the seniors. As you know, one of the big things that the state of New Mexico has said is we need to continue education on our pre-K through 11, but our main focus has to be our seniors this year. It has such a negative impact on all the things that they're missing out being a senior, and they definitely did not want us to let them drop through the hoops. So all 3 high schools have been working long hours with Mrs. Cole's staff on trying to figure out what are the best ways and what kind of different ways they can demonstrate their abilities for what they have learned at this time. Ruben, again, and Jennifer, could you add some more onto that? You spend more time on that than I did.
Mr. Bolaños answering, or am I?
Either one or both.
Nicole. We're both on. Go ahead.
Okay, so I just will say again that there was a tremendous amount of discussion and time and energy put into what this looks like and how we ensure that we're doing the very best for our seniors with remote learning. And so, we have issues with access to online, and so we're ensuring that we have alternative comparable assignments for them, and really just emphasizing that work with our seniors and follow-up. So we're doing weekly, bi-weekly check-ins, so that's 2 times a week, that we're ensuring that we're contacting them and just keeping them on track for graduation. Mr. Bolaños?
Yes, I just would like to reiterate what Mr. Golub and Ms. Cole said, is the focus is the seniors, of course, and them fulfilling their last stretch of school. I mean, they still have to make plans for college. They still have to make plans for financial aid and all those things, while still having to go through this uncharted territory of them having to learn, and not to mention their well-being as well as their families and whatnot. And so we're trying to make best effort and be informed on how we can help them get through all this.
Ms. Sanchez, I can tell you there has been countless hours spent by the staff working on video conferencing with the teachers, the principals and the teachers, trying to devise multiple steps to help make sure that these kids were successful. I'm really proud of what they've done. They have done a yeoman's work in a very short part of time, so we appreciate your question on that.
Was somebody trying to say something there?
Yes, I have a question for Ms. Cole and Mr. Bolaños related to our secondary students. Have we made contact with all of the families for students who are at risk of failing?
So we're working on that. We have some processes in place, Ms. Morales, and we have several people working on it. So our school administrators have contact logs that they're tracking that, and so at the end of this week, we'll be going through all of those to see if there's anyone, but many of them are already on it. I can't tell you specific numbers of students that we haven't contacted, but we are taking a multi-pronged approach. So when I say that we have multiple people working to contact the families, I'm talking about people like our homeless liaison. So Veronica Barraza is our district's homeless liaison, and so she's making contact with all of our students who have been identified as homeless this year to ensure that they're getting access and the resources that they need, and she's already submitted 2 logs to me. We have other people, our attendance officer, and then our school counselors. They're all working together to make those contacts, and it looks a little bit different at each level. But again, we're emphasizing our seniors and ensuring that they're on track. And so we have 2 people outside of the school team that do work for district office that are working with our high schools and contacting the seniors. So we should have a good idea of who if there are any high priority students that we need to reach out to at the end of this week. Does that help?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Cole.
Hope, let me add on to that, since your question came up this afternoon. I talked to one principal that she found 14 kids that have left the state of New Mexico. They are coming back. So she was able to make contact through other relatives that had said they had moved somewhere else temporarily, but will be showing back up in the fall time. So she was able, that principal was able to get their addresses where they're at, and she's mailing to their new address the packets for the rest of the school year so that they still have that information. And that's part of that process that we put out there is if you have changed your address, you changed your number, please let us know. So that's been very hard for some of the schools to contact all the different families because of changing the phone numbers or addresses or moving to another city or another state and still are planning to come back. As we contact those and they contact us, we still will send them the packets wherever they're at.
So I have a question to piggyback off that, Mr. Gottlieb. Will they be dropped because it's difficult for the lack of attendance to drop them, but in the same respect, do we give them a pass-fail? How do you plan on working through that?
Well, the state's not allowing us to drop kids at this time. I think I've sent several things out on that issue because we just don't know as we move forward. They may show up later on again. If we have a parent that comes and actually withdraws the kiddo, going to another school district or going to another city, then we are allowed to withdraw them at that time. Otherwise, we are not to do that at this point in time. And as we're working forward with these, we have to look at the equity issue and the possibilities of kids doing a variety of other items and other things. So we are relying heavy on what the teachers are doing, trying to make contact, get those packets, and we'll move forward from there. And we'll have to handle each situation individually.
Yeah, I guess that would be the best scenario because I was afraid they wouldn't return them, but would that jeopardize, if they were on the borderline of not passing, would that jeopardize them passing? But yeah, I guess it would be each individual case.
It's very much individualized on that process, and I would hate to say anything is a sweeping decision for the entire school district on individual students and their progress.
It's just a difficult situation, I understand. I do want to comment too and say thank you so much for your leadership, Mr. Gottlieb. I appreciate all the information that you have been forwarding to each of us board members. You have kept us in the loop and all the information has been shared and I truly appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am, you're welcome.
And sir, also thank that administrator, please, for being proactive in identifying those students and following up with them. That's going above and beyond and is something that will really benefit the students. So please thank them.
I'll let them know.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Mr. Edwards.
Okay. On this pass-fail grading system, how's that going to affect the AP students as well as the dual enrolled students?
Jennifer, will you answer that? Ms. Cole?
Yes, I will.
Okay.
So dual enrolled students will follow the college grading system for those dual enrollment classes. And then AP students, the pass-fail shouldn't impact them as much because what they really look at is the AP exam that they take. So they're working toward the AP exam. So while grades are certainly important, we've already talked about the impact to GPA, but the pass-fail is not as big of an impact because, again, we focus on the AP exam.
Okay, so then what I'm hearing is the early college students, are they going to also follow the pass-fail, or are they going to be graded on a grading system?
Mr. Edwards, they're following the college grading system if they're dual enrollment students, and I believe And Mr. Gottlieb, please add on to this. I believe that the last we heard, they are going to move to a pass-fail also at the university.
No, not at this time. I know they have another board meeting. I don't know if that's on their agenda. However, when it comes back to the school district, to keep everything fair, so as far as I know, the university is still on their ABCDF system. However, for us, when it comes back to us, to keep everything standards the same, and I could be wrong, and I'll make that correction tomorrow, is that we will include that as a pass-fail for those kids. If they get the A through D, that's a pass, and I get the F, that's a fail.
So we look at the 60% and above. So if they in their college class have a 73%, then that would be a pass. But the 60% is the threshold. So we just translate that.
Okay.
Mr. Edwards, it's been one of those things, just like everywhere else around the country. Two of the bigger universities in the state did go to a pass-fail system for all of the colleges, and some of the other ones stayed with the A through F system. So it's again very unique to each situation, to each community.
Okay, so more or less we'll find out as soon as they have their meeting then, right?
As far as I know, it's still staying the A through F system. I don't think there's going to be any changes at this point in time.
Okay. So I think that the parents need to be notified about that then, because what I'm seeing is there's two different messages being sent. There's a pass-fail for the high school students and the other students throughout the district, but the kids that are in early college and that are dual enrolled, it could be A, B, C, D, F.
Mr. Edwards, again, the ABCDF will be for the college. Unless I'm wrong on this, that grade, when it comes to us to record on our system, will be a pass-fail.
Okay, understood. Okay.
All right. Any other discussion? I want to just point out to the board that when you speak, introduce yourself. For the most part, we know who you are, but we just want to make sure we don't mess that up. And I want to say one last thing, just a comment that this unprecedented times, obviously, but I'm so excited that who we have in leadership, and I'm not just talking about Mr. Gottlieb, but you're one of them. Just the idea that you guys care so much about these kids, because they are definitely the ones getting the raw deal, and I know you guys are working really hard to alleviate some of that. And this is one of the ways we're alleviating it, I know, just by doing this pass-fail, but I know you guys are working hard, and I really do appreciate it. So I just want to echo what Ms. Kirk said.
Thank you very much.
Is there any discussion after, I spoke out of turn, so. Okay, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. I second. Ms. Kirk, second.
Mona Kirk, second.
I think it was it Kirk second? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, roll call, please.
Alan Getty,
Yes.
James Edwards,
Yes.
Hope Morales,
Yes.
Mona Kirk,
Yes.
Hilda Sanchez,
Yes.
All right, next we have the RISD 3-year school calendars, 2020 to 2021, 21, 22, 22, and 23. It's our second reading. Go ahead.
Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend approval of the RISD 3-year school calendar 2021, 21 to 22, and 22 to 23. This is a second reading.
Do we have any discussion?
Yes.
I have a question.
We do have two things that the board asked us to do. The first one was to look at the spring break and move it back with daylight savings time. The vote, and it was almost all parents, It was a large vote for parents that said, keep it as late as you possibly can due to the weather conditions and so forth. So my recommendation, as I approve to you, is to keep it where we had it. The second question came up was moving parent conferences from Wednesday to a Thursday evening, Friday morning, and the vote was overwhelming on that also, that we move our parent conferences, so we'll be from Wednesday to Thursday evening, Friday morning.
All.
Any other discussion or questions?
Mrs. Sanchez, I have a calendar.
Okay,
Ms. Sanchez.
Ms. Sanchez, go ahead.
I was going to ask you, on the survey question number 2, there was regarding the district conferences, select the option that most was supported by parents. If you could look at that survey, Thursdays was almost 59.32%, and then your Wednesdays was only 14%, and Fridays was 30.79. So was this taken into consideration?
Yes,
this number?
Yes, it was. It was a Thursday evening, Friday morning question. It wasn't either Thursday or Friday. It was a Thursday evening, Friday morning. That way the parents that can't come during the day, we can pick them up Thursday evening, and then those that can come Friday morning. That's the way it was worded.
Okay.
Thank you for that question, for that clarifying question.
So, this is Ms. Kirk.
Thank you.
Mr. Gottlieb, my question is, the feedback was overwhelming, which is rightfully so, because you have more elementary and middle school parents responding to that, I'm sure, than we had secondary. So, and it's difficult, I get it, for them to find daycare and get there. So that doesn't surprise me. The way the vote turned didn't surprise me. My only question is, what can we do to ensure that teachers, or how can we get principals to secure teachers in their building, so when we do go have parent conferences with them, that the teachers are there and the coaches? I know emergencies happen, they have to be out, but that Thursday, Friday has always been a difficult time to meet with staff. So can we put anything in place? Can we do something that will help parents get the meetings that they so desperately desire to have with the teachers in place?
Mona, thank you for your question. Of course, the difficult problem is things that we do not have control over, i.e. games, major events. They could be, band could be going somewhere, dance team could be somewhere. Football games, you name it, we have it going on somewhere every day of the week, with the exception of Wednesday evening. That was one of the reasons why that did come up. There's no way I can stop all those Thursday night activities. It's just, that would be impossible. What we are trying to do is alleviate the problem with going Thursday evening. Hopefully we can pick up some there, and then Friday morning. The problem again with Friday morning is that you still end up with those teams that are traveling out of town that are going to Farmington or Deming or all the different areas that we compete in all our different activities. So I hate to tell you this, but there's never going to be a perfect picture window for that. 31 years plus this one, I still haven't seen anything that works across the board for everyone.
Well, I'm right there with you, Mike. Okay, well.
So, Mr. President?
Yes, Ms. Morales.
This is Hope. I would like to make a motion for us to move the parent conferences to Thursday evening and Friday morning.
Good job.
I'd like to second.
Okay, I have a
I'll second
motion.
it.
Okay.
I want to
Actually, it was Hope that motioned, and there was a second, I think, by Ms. Sanchez.
Hilda.
Yeah,
Hilda.
okay. So Ms. Sanchez made the
Is
second.
that on both things?
Yes.
It'll be a yeah.
The spring break thing also?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's on, you can't really motion to move it, but we need to amend this because on this, it's still on Wednesdays.
That's correct.
So what you're motioning for is approval with the conferences on Thursday and Friday amended.
And spring break.
And spring break, right?
That's correct.
Okay, because we have to make sure we do that. We can't motion one thing and not the whole thing.
Ms. Morales, do you agree to your motion?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And then Ms. Sanchez, we're good with second?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, roll call, please.
Alan Getty,
Yes.
James Edwards,
Yes.
Hope Morales,
Yes.
Mona Kirk,
Yes.
Hilda Sanchez.
Yes.
And I'm glad I don't have to do another calendar.
All right. Next, we have the bus contractor evaluations.
Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend approval of the bus contractor evaluation.
Any discussion?
I have one question. I noted in our comments at the very end, we brought up asking for bus personnel to speak with our building principals when a student is at risk of losing bus privileges. Do we have a policy in place that requires them to meet with the building administrators so that we can try to intervene before our students lose those bus privileges?
Ms. Morales, thank you for your question. As large as our policy, board policy is nowadays, I'm going to have to beg a little forgiveness on that issue. I cannot answer that straight up. Mr. Cole, Ms.
Yes, sir.
Cole or Mr. Bolaños, could you quickly jump online to the board book and check for me? But the best of my knowledge, there is no policy, because that's very refined, and our board policies are very generic. There is no board policy that requires them to do that as a board policy.
That is correct, and I will go back and check the board policies again, but I've looked for that in the past, and I do not believe we have that in place at this time.
Mr. Gottlieb, this is Ms. Kirk. In the bus referral, isn't that one of the requirements of the bus, when the student gets a bus referral, aren't they required to meet with the administrator and the parent?
The administrator is to meet with the parent and the student, yes. The referral
And the
goes...
bus contractor or the bus driver?
So that's a procedure, and that is correct. It starts with the building principal and the parent, and the bus contractor is not necessarily pulled into that automatically, but they can be and often are.
So, Mr. Cole, since this is a note in the actual evaluation, it sounds like perhaps we're not doing great with that. Just because of the note, since we're asking the bus company to do that as a step, I'm just trying to see where we can do better to support that process.
Yes, Ms. Morales, I totally agree with you, and those are some things that we're looking at, both financial policies, budget policies, and definitely transportation policies. We've had some issues with that over the years as policies have changed, and so we're definitely looking at those policies moving forward as a district.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Mrs. Sanchez, I have a question.
Okay.
I want to ask, who conducts these evaluations?
Yes, ma'am. If I could chime in, this is Chad Cole. So Chris Tweet is our support services coordinator, and one of his many functions and duties is to manage and supervise our bus contractors and staff. So part of the awarding of a bus contract or a contract with the school district to provide bus services is they must be evaluated each year prior to a new contract award. So Chris does these evaluations, but I will say this, he works directly with those school principals and did on these evaluations, work with those school principals on these evaluations. So it's not just Chris, it's essentially Chris and the school principals providing the input there. And in talking to Chris and reviewing these evaluations, he did assure me that those school principals were involved with that and they agreed with the evaluation at the time.
Thank you, Mr. Cole.
Yes, ma'am.
This is Maria. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, Maria.
So board policy E2450 is student conduct on school buses, and it outlines that students are required to conduct themselves in accordance to the established standards for classroom behavior. And when they fail to practice proper conduct, then the bus driver will inform the principal of the misconduct, which will then be brought to the attention of the parent.
So it's not direct.
And again, that is E-2450.
Ms. Trujillo, but there are no additional steps after that if the behavior continues?
It's pretty vague. It says students who become serious disciplinary problems related to school transportation may have their riding privileges suspended. In such cases, the parents of the students involved become responsible, and the principal is the only one authorized to suspend the riding privileges. And then it goes on to talk about students riding on special activity buses.
Okay.
But that's pretty much it. There's 4 paragraphs on it.
And
That's pretty vague.
well, it is, I would say it's pretty clear that the principal is the only person authorized to suspend riding privileges. So the principal gets to decide that, which puts it back in the hands of the schools, and that's good.
Correct. And the bus driver is required to inform the principal.
Who was that speaking, please?
I'm sorry, this is Maria again. The
Okay.
bus driver is required to inform the principal of the misconduct.
James, did you have something you wanted to say?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's okay. So the bus driver would inform the principal, "Hey, this kid's acting up." But what I heard thus far was kind of, to me, it sounds like, okay, the bus driver communicates to the principal, "Hey, I make a recommendation. This kid's booted off the bus because his attitude," and then the principal has. Is there any follow up? And I believe I understand where Miss Hope is talking about, because, and this has come up a couple of times where parents have come to me and they're like, "How does a kid get his privileges back to ride the bus?"
Yeah, I've heard that too, Mr. Edwards.
And
I've heard
so
where-
that kind of bugs me that, and I'm not saying that the bus drivers are exactly targeting kids or saying, but there's always 2 sides to a story, and when a principal suspends a kid's bus riding privileges, is that forever, or is it for a semester? Is it 3 days? Is it 4 days? Is it 5 days?
So, this is Ruben Bolaños interjecting, if I may. So there's a negotiated agreement with our bus companies and with RISD, and I don't remember them exactly, but there's a step-by-step consequence. So, like the first infraction could be a conference, student, parent, administrator. The second infraction, it's like a 5-day lose purposes of transportation to school, but that has to be given to the parent with plenty of time notice so that they can make arrangements.
Okay, is that clearly written out in policy?
Not in policy.
Or in a bus agreement?
In the negotiated agreement, yes, sir, I believe that it's in there.
I'd like to see if I
Find
can
it right now.
It's in the,
Okay, because I'd like.
Mr. Edwards, it's also in the MLSS, which was piloted this last year. So there is a process approach. The state is going to make the MLSS a requirement for all districts starting this fall. So there are steps for everything in there, including loss of privileges and transportation issues. So there is a multitude of process steps, sometimes good, sometimes bad, depending upon the situation as we go forward. But I believe you have seen the MLSS. I think I've sent that to you once. It's quite a lengthy document. I can send it to you again if you'd like to see that.
Oh, I'll look for it. But
Okay.
no, just, but I've heard where kids have been booted off the bus, and parents are calling me and asking me, hey, they weren't even aware that the kids were kicked off of the bus until the kid was actually kicked off the bus. So,
Yeah.
That's an administrative procedure.
I've heard that too as well, Mr. Edwards, and I think it's something that when we read that MLSS, we want to make sure that all administrators are following that, and the
Right.
bus companies as well.
And Ms.
'Cause-
Gottlieb, this is Ms. Kurtz. So the MLSS will take the place of 5130. And 5130 was our behavior contracts, or not contracts, but behavior policy with our procedures with our students and families. So that will be written in the procedures manual.
Yes, it will be.
Am I correct?
Yes, you're correct. When the board did away with 5130, or the entire board policy, one of the things that was absent at that time, which is it's very generic again in our new extensive board policy. The MLSS is refined according to, and it's even part of the budget. Mr. Cole can verify that. Mr. Cole and I went through another webinar today on school budgeting, program planning, and educational planning, and part of that was the MLSS as part of the student behavior issue. What you bring up, Mr. Edwards, is an administrative process versus rules that are in place. There's plenty of rules in place, but we have to make sure our processes are followed and that our parents are informed when the incident happens. One of the issues I know we had, because I had to work with one of our schools, because I had a school board member contact me on, was that the referral form was not making it to the principal's office. So we had to make sure that that referral form was making it from the bus driver to the principal's office, and then at the principal's office, be it the assistant principal or the principals, were calling the parents and setting up to say, hey, Mike Gottlieb did this on the bus today, we're having this continuing issue, we need to talk. So that's the difference between what we have in place and versus what processes we need to work on to enhance our procedures.
No problem.
Thank you.
Mrs. Sanchez, question?
Yes.
On this referral for the bus, would
Oh, stop.
Ms. Sanchez, you're very choppy all of a sudden.
No, I wanted to ask on the referrals to parents. Well, are they in Spanish and English for these forms?
Are they in Spanish and English? Are the forms in Spanish and English?
Mr. Bolaños, can you answer that?
Yes, sir, I can. No, they are not.
I think we need to have them for some of the parents, right?
Mr. Cole, are those,
Yes.
are those forms our forms, or are they the bus drivers? Bus companies?
Yes, sir. So you're absolutely right. It's a referral process, and it is a procedure at this point because the policy no longer exists. So it is a procedure, and it does work just like a classroom referral. The referral should go to the principal. The building administrator or principal is the only one that can make that determination. And then the bus contractor has to live with that, whatever that decision is.
Okay.
But, Mr. Cole,
But to answer your question on the form, they are not in Spanish. We can certainly
who
do
owns that
that.
form? Who owns that form, Mr. Cole? Does the district own that form, or the bus company own the form?
So I believe at this point, that's the bus company's form.
Okay, so we'll have to work with them on that issue.
Yeah, and there's lots to do on that particular issue, and we are well aware of it, and we'll be pushing forward some recommendations for those policies going forward to work for our local school district. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Good, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sanchez.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Anything else? All right, then, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved. This is Hope.
Second.
I have a
Ms.
hope
Kirk.
by Ms. Morales and a second made by Ms. Kirk. Roll call, please.
Alan Getty,
Yes.
James Edwards,
Yes.
Hope Morales,
Yes.
Mona Kirk,
Yes.
Hilda Sanchez,
Yes.
Okay, next we have the Equity Council member vote.
Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend approval of the Equity Council member vote.
Mr. President, Mr. Sanchez,
Hilda, you may need to move so that we can hear you better. I think you're on a cell phone and it's very choppy all of a sudden.
can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. On the Equity Council.
Yeah, we're open for discussion,
I
so,
have a question.
yeah.
I've noticed that there's 3 previous names that were on the list are now removed, and they were replaced by other names. And my question is why, and when was it decided to remove those people, and by whom?
Not by me.
Um,
Who?
Hilda, are we all looking at the Excel sheet? And before we do question, Mr. President, can I quickly talk through the process that Hilda and I used and explain the Excel sheet and the different tabs?
We're already to questions, and it's discussion, so, but go ahead. I mean, it's fine.
Well, if you all are interested in the process, if you
No,
are
absolutely.
okay with just...
We are interested in the process, Ms. Morales. I'm okay. I was just letting you know that we're already there, so go for it.
Gotcha. Thank you. No problem. And Hilda, feel free to jump in. I just wanted to give them a brief explanation. On your Excel sheet in that first tab, highlighted in green are 16 names that we recommend for the Equity Council. We went through and we scored their open-ended responses, 3 being the highest score they could earn and 1 being the lowest score they could earn. We also noted if they were interested in a 3 or 4 year term. We've had some really great candidates from throughout the community. So it was really hard. And one of the other factors we tried to look at is we really wanted it to be a diverse group. So if you look on the bottom, we kind of break down the data for you a little bit. From the 16 recommendations that we submitted, 4 are teachers, to administrators, to students, for parents, to community members, a person from higher ed, and nonprofit. So it talks about 69% are minority. We were able to get 50% from the northern side of the community and 50% from the south. We also did well with relation to male and female and RASD staff and non-ISD staff. So I just wanted to point out that's kind of what you're looking at. And on the bottom, if you want to look at all of the teacher applicants or all of the student applicants, you can click on one of those tabs on the bottom. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you, Hope. Now, Ms. Sanchez, honestly, I don't know who you're talking about. We can't discuss that. But I didn't.
I don't know. I'm not sure if we can actually say names of the.
No, you can't.
At the beginning.
Okay.
Can't. That's right.
Okay.
But
Ms. Sanchez, I see all 16 names on the sheet that I'm looking at.
I know, but I had a question on a couple of people that were at the first list, but they're not there any longer. So I'm not sure. I don't want to name them.
no, you can't. You can't name them. Obviously.
I can't. No, I don't want to.
Yeah. Well,
Could I say something?
go ahead, Julie. Ms. Whitcamp would like to say something really quick.
Hilda, the list that I put in board book came directly from Hope in an email.
Sorry, I'm not able to hear you quite clearly.
What she said was the list that was sent to her was the list from Hope. That was the list that we got.
And I
I
sent
know, but
her the
she-
list that we worked on, so I don't know what names.
Yeah, that difficult.
Can I interject?
Absolutely.
I guess what I would like to do is I would like to make a motion that we table it because it sounds like there's two different lists that are out there, and without us being able to compare the two lists, I think what would be wise to do was just to table this and have Hope and Hilda meet later to compare their two lists to make sure that they have the same list.
Here's the deal, guys, is we've kind of held off on this, and I don't think anybody changed the original list. I didn't change it. And it's only been in the hands of Hope and Hilda. So, but we have to vote on this.
So, Mr. President, if I may interject, Hilda, can you tell us what tab to go to and what line? And you can indicate the name by that. For example, you could say, go to the teacher tab. You're talking about the person on line number 6.
That would work.
Because I don't know who's missing.
No, no, the name.
Hilda, we're choppy again with you. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know what to say right now, but can we go ahead and I'm not sure you can vote on it, and then Hope and I can go back to it, and I can show her where I think I'm seeing different names?
We could vote on it as it is, and if there are changes that need to be made, we could vote on it again at the next board meeting, right? Because it's possible people will decide not to do this anyway. Is that correct?
We will have to go back and check with each individual.
Yeah.
And see if they still want to serve on the committee. They may or may not.
So if we came back to it next month, it would be okay, but we would have an equity council in place for the state. And then if we had a name that they decided they weren't on there, or Hope and Hilda, then we could come back and vote on this again. I hate to.
That will work for me.
Well, I mean, and Ms. Sanchez, I want to be very careful with that. I don't want to say it's for sure that we can, but I will tell you that we'll do our best. I would imagine we could. Okay? So,
Thank you.
so I guess what we do have a motion to table that has been motioned. Do we have a second to table this? And I'm sorry, James.
I'll do the second.
You'll second to table it?
Or second to approve.
Okay.
Please verify.
Is that Ms. Sanchez? Are you seconding to table?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Sanchez, yes. to
All
table.
right. So we have a motion by Mr. Edwards and a second by Mrs. Sanchez to table the Equity Council. Roll call, please.
Ellen Getty,
No.
James Edwards,
Yes.
Hope Morales,
No.
Mona Kirk,
No.
Hilda Sanchez,
Yes.
Okay. So now we can come back. Do we have a motion to approve the council, Equity Council member vote? Do we have a motion to vote for this council?
I will make that motion, and I do want to add that I congratulate Hope and Hilda for all their hard work. I was not willing to step up, but I sure appreciate them doing this. I know it took a lot of time and a lot of energy. So ladies, congratulations. Thank you so much for all your work. And having said that, I will make a motion to approve as is.
Do I have a second? I'll second. Okay, roll call?
Ellen Getty,
Yes.
James Edwards,
No.
Hope Morales,
Yes.
Mona Kirk,
Yes.
Hilda Sanchez.
No.
Okay, with that, we move on to the possible reorganization of the RISD Board of Education.
Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend approval of the possible reorganization of the RISD Board of Education.
Okay, so if we reorganize, do we have a motion to approve reorganization of the Board of Education?
Mr. Getty, I'd like to make a motion that we keep the offices of the Board of Education as they are now, due to the fact that we're in unstable times. We need to control the consistency and instability that's happening, and I really believe it would be in the best interest of the board if we wait and reorganize and elect different officers in January of 2021. So I'm nominating all board members, the President, Mr. Getty, Vice President James Edwards, and Secretary Hope Morales stay the same.
Okay, are you what your motion is to stay the same?
Yes, sir.
But I think we have to, I think that the question at hand is, do we approve the reorganization of the board? So if what you're saying is that you would like to table it till, I have to make sure we get this right. So what you're saying is you want a motion that we keep it the same, which means we wouldn't reorganize. So I don't know
Correct.
that you're having a discussion. What you're motioning is not even on the table yet. Does that sound right? You're saying you don't want to reorganize, which is basically if we have a motion and a second to reorganize, we could vote no on that. Do you understand what I'm saying, Ms. Kirk?
No, I do not.
Okay, so what's on the table right now is to approve the reorganization of the RISD Board of Education. Your motion, if you motion what you motioned, and that's, I like your motion, it's just that we aren't there yet. Right now, are we even going to reorganize? You could motion to table reorganization until January, when the next reorganization takes place, or somebody else could.
That would be my motion.
Okay,
Mr. Getty.
Okay, so what we have is a motion to not reorganize, to table reorganization until the next reorganization in January of 2021. Do I have
So, Mr. Getty, do we need to take the motion to support the reorganization before we take the motion to table?
We have to make yes, we have to make a
So I
motion on this.
I make a motion for the possible reorganization of the board.
Okay, do I have
I like to second it.
Okay,
Ms. Sanchez,
great.
I want to second it.
All right, I have a motion made by Ms. Morales, a second made by Ms. Sanchez to reorganize the board.
But Mr. Getty, you have my motion that's on.
Well, so
right now.
I'm being reminded here that we can't take your motion with this motion up there. We have to take the motion as it's written. And then after, we have to do that. I'm being reminded of that here in the boardroom as we're sitting here. Sorry, Mona. I did that, and that was my mistake. So we have a motion and a second. We can have a roll call. This is only to approve reorganization of the board. So we have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Alan Getty,
Yes. For reorganization, yes.
James Edwards,
Yes.
Hope Morales,
Yes.
Mona Kirk,
No.
Hilda Sanchez.
Yes.
Okay. I will now accept nominations for president of the RISD Board of Education.
I would like to nominate, I would like to nominate Alan Getty as president.
And I will second
Hilda
that.
Sanchez, second.
Okay, we'll go, I don't know who was, I heard Ms. Sanchez. Second. So we have Edwards, motion, Sanchez, second.
Uh-huh.
This is the first time
That's
I've
correct.
done this. So do we vote on that motion in second? Yes, we do, because it was
Yes,
a
we
motion
do.
in second.
Yes.
So roll call on Mr. Getty, remaining president of the Board of Education.
Ellen Getty,
Yes.
James Edwards,
Yes.
Hope Morales,
No.
Mona Kirk,
Yes.
Hilda Sanchez.
Yes.
Okay, we now have, we now accept nominations for Vice President of the RISD Board of Education.
I'd like to nominate,
James Edwards.
Okay,
I'd like to,
hold on, James.
Mrs. Sanchez likes to make, this is Mrs. Sanchez.
Hold on, okay, Mona Kirk was the first one. And I'm sorry, guys, we gotta go by that way. So Mona Kirk nominated James Edwards. Do we have a second for James Edwards? I'll second it. Okay. Well, James, do you want to do vice president?
no.
No? Okay, do we have another nomination?
I'd like to nominate, I'd like to nominate Hope Morales.
It was James.
Okay, James,
Like to second it?
you'd like to second that? Ms. Sanchez?
I'll
Mrs.
second.
Sanchez, second.
Okay, so I have a nomination by Mr. Edwards and a second by Ms. Sanchez for Hope Morales as Vice President of the RISD School Board. Roll call, please.
Hold on just a sec.
Oh, hold on. I'm sorry, guys. I'm getting ahead of Ms. Whitcamp over there.
Okay, Ellen Getty,
Yes.
James Edwards,
Yes.
Hope Morales,
Yes.
Mona Kirk,
Yes.
Hilda Sanchez.
Yes.
Okay, Hope Morales is the new Vice President. I will now accept nominations for the Secretary of the RISD.
I'd like to nominate,
And I would like
Okay, you
to nominate
people.
Hilda Sanchez.
Okay, all right, so I have a nomination by Hope Morales. James tried, but he stopped. So Hope Morales nominated Hilda Sanchez as Secretary. Hilda, is that something you'd like to do?
Yes.
Okay, do I have a second?
a second.
Okay, I have a second made by Mr. Edwards. Roll, Hope Morales
Hope
made
Morales.
the motion.
And then James Edwards seconded. Okay.
Okay.
Ellen Getty,
Yes.
James Edwards,
Yes.
Hope Morales,
Yes.
Mona Kirk,
Yes.
Hilda Sanchez.
Yes.
Okay, then the board has been reorganized slightly. And those of you will take your offices now. Enjoy, new vice president and new secretary. I guess I get to stay here.
Good luck.
Good job. Hey, guys, that was very difficult to do this way. I appreciate all of your patience. And thank you very much for that, and also for your vote. Thanks for all of us. All right, next we have the approval of the superintendent contract. Do I have any discussion?
Yes, I have some discussion. I'd like to say something.
Absolutely.
And one of the things I'd like to say is, I appreciate Mike stepping up, and especially to the board members, I appreciate y'all for stepping up and actually running. I think Mike's done a real good job, and difficult times need good leadership, and I think he offers some good leadership. So that's just my ball of wax.
I agree, Mr. Edwards. Any other discussion?
Yes, I would like to say something. I can't imagine anyone else leading us through this difficult time. Mr. Gottlieb, you have been a godsend to us in the district. I've worked with you and I've worked for you. And I am just so pleased that we have your leadership to get us through these difficult times. Uncharted territory. It's just been a blessing. We have been kept abreast of everything that is going on. I feel so informed. So everything I'm hearing from the community, I, from the bottom of my heart, say thank you.
No problem.
Any other discussion?
No.
Okay, if not, may I, oh, did I have discussion? Okay, may I have a motion to approve the superintendent contract?
So moved.
I have a motion made by Ms. Kirk
Mrs. Sanchez?
and a second made by Ms. Sanchez.
That's correct.
Okay, then we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Ellen Getty,
Yes.
James Edwards,
Yes.
Hope Morales,
Yes.
Mona Kirk,
Absolutely.
Hilda Sanchez.
Yes.
Thank
Okay.
you, board members.
Thank you,
I
guys.
appreciate it very much.
It's you, Mr. Gottlieb.
Mr. President, members of the board, again, thank you very much, but there are some, and I hate to miss a group or individual, so I have to be real careful with this because there's so many wonderful people that work for the school district. This has been a very difficult time for our parents, our kids, our teachers, our administrators, our janitors, our custodians, our cafeteria workers. There have been so many people that have stepped up and said, I'll do whatever it takes to get the job done. There has been countless hours given up of holidays, working on weekends, and I just can't thank the community of RISD for everything they've done to try to make this situation, a very difficult situation, the best for our families, making sure that they're fed, our nurses making sure that they get all the information that's out there, our technology staff trying to do everything to help them move forward, get information on our web pages. But something that not everybody knows is our cafeteria people are there early dawn in the morning. They've been serving a lot of breakfasts, a lot of lunch. They do it with a smile every day. I go by and I look at them, and they're just as happy as if it was 47 degrees with wind today, or if it was 80 degrees, it's supposed to be on Thursday. I can't thank them enough for helping us with that. Our teachers, the administrators have worked so hard to bring this together as the best we can. I was, and Mr. Allen will acknowledge this, I was very worried that we were not going to be able to pull this off, and because of the teachers, because of the administrators, and all the other staff that worked as a team, we came up with a very good plan, and everybody's been very supportive. You're very fortunate, board members, to have such a wonderful RISD team and family. So I just needed to share that out. Thank you.
Mr. Gottlieb, I just want to tell you how impressed I am, and I said this earlier, and board members, I know that normally we don't discuss things, but if you want to say thank you, it's fine. I think our district has done a fine job. There have been hiccups, but I don't see how in the world you could accomplish something like this without them. What an incredible job by our district to just get this done and done well. And Mr. Edwards, you said it best. It takes strong leadership from the top, and that strong leader has to have people he can depend on. So I was very, very impressed at how this rolled out. And I do know you were very worried, but you kept us so apprised as a board that I don't know how it could have gone any better. It was done very well.
Well, I can tell you there were very many tears, many nights from a lot of staff. I got a lot of phone calls and text messages. So, but I just need to let the people know and let our families and our families know that we're trying to do the very best with what we have. And we promise to continue to support our kids the best that we have with what we have.
Amen. Appreciate that.
Personnel report, Medea?
Yes, so you should have in front of you the personnel actions dated April 7th of 2020 for both certified personnel and non-certified personnel and temporary personnel. Any questions?
Yes.
Yes, Mr.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Edwards, and then somebody else was wanting to come on, so hold on.
No. Okay. One of the things I was wondering, we're still currently recruiting, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, in a modified format. So, for example, on Thursday, we will be having a virtual recruiting fair that we will be in attendance for. So we're trying to work with, under the constraints that we have, but trying to be as creative and innovative as we can be to try to fill the vacancies that we have. So, yes, we are pursuing all avenues.
Okay.
But as far as the traditional job fairs, those are all canceled.
Oh, yes.
So, Ms. Trujillo, right now, I think the clock really starts ticking on us to be proactive to make sure we have vacancies filled before the start of the school year. At a previous board meeting, I mentioned sending out letters to staff that have left the district and just giving them an update on available positions. Is that something that we can still do, especially now because we can't be in person doing things? We can certainly send out letters.
So their RISD email accounts have been deactivated. So in the case that they gave a personal email through our records, then we'll be able to do that. And the same thing with the mailing addresses. Many of them have moved out, and because we don't have forwarding addresses, that becomes a little difficult. But wherever we can, then we will be able to send out pretty much like what you see posted on the site with all the current openings. But yes, we will pursue that. I just don't know how accurate the information will be, so we'll reach out probably primarily through the emails that we might have.
Okay, thank you.
And that was Ms. Morales that had asked the question.
Yes, that was Ms. Morales. Okay, I guess with going to the general ledger.
Mr. Cole, General Ledger.
Yes, sir, board members. So you've got the general ledger through March 31st, so that is July 1, March 31st of 2020 activity by funding source. So you can see listed there all the funding sources. The funding source is identified by the first 5 digits of the account. So for example, the very first account that's listed is the operational fund, 11,000. I just point out a couple of interesting things as you're looking through there. Nothing blows my mind in terms of looking at this and where we're at this point in time. It's pretty normal for where we're at this moment in time, this moment in the year, the school year. So just to point out on that first line there for operational fund 11,000 revenue, which is 0000, it says operational revenue. You'll notice that under the budget amount, there's $93,226,865 budgeted in operational revenue for the current year as of today, or as of March 31st. And so that's the bulk of our funds. I think if we were to go through and total up each one of these by revenue source, we're slightly over $130 million. So you can obviously see the bulk of that $130 million is the $93 million in our SEG operational funds. We know that we had a recent legislative session, a regular session in 2020 that established new laws for the state of New Mexico in terms of the appropriations for next year. Then we had the wipeout with the oil and gas pricing in the market battle between Russia and the Saudi Arabian OPEC group. And then we have the coronavirus, which we know is going to have long-term impacts and implications. And as an aside to that, the coronavirus contributed because there's no demand for travel right now. Fuel prices, vacations, cruises, air flights, fuel for those airplanes, fuel for everything. Demand is way down, and so there's a lot of supply out there. Even if things get better, we know that supplies are going to be an issue for at least the 6 months in terms of the price per barrel. And rig count is the thing to watch as that price per barrel starts to edge up. So we know that looking at that $93 million in our operational fund, we're going to budget initially based on current laws, but we're going to have a special legislative session coming up. We're hearing probably in July timeframe, which would be the new fiscal year. July 1 is the start of the new fiscal year. So we'll be starting or anticipating starting with a budget that is increased approximately 3.39% on the unit value of the funding formula through the SEG. And we are going to have budget meetings, and we'll do those virtual, where our budget committee members can chime in and ask questions. As you know, I prefer to have as many questions as we can get through in one of those, because I'd prefer that there not be any misunderstandings with it. But it does present a hurdle, another hurdle to overcome in the coming months, knowing that we're going to get increased, that we're going to be required to increase recurring salary costs, which will impact recurring benefit costs, and then knowing that that increase is probably going to be swept away in the new special session of the legislation, as well as any excess cash balances that might be out there. So those are things to think about as we structure our budget moving forward. And of course, we just keep an eye on that 93 million number. I suspect that's going to come down quite a bit once we get into the new year. And the legislative session, we're surprised as to any changes that go on there. But barring that, the only other things I can see, if you look further down on that operational fund, the third from the bottom, the 11,027 series, you can see out in the unencumbered balance column a negative 4,308.20 cents. I'll tell you that among our 20 bars that are on this board agenda, most of those are maintenance bars. What that means, we're moving from one line item account that has excess budget to another line item account that does not, that needs some more budget in it. So that $4,308.26 is a good example of that. We have that covered with a bar on this board agenda, which you have approved with the consent agenda, and which I've submitted to OBMS, or through OBMS, the Operating Budget Management, to PED, for their authorization, so we can clean those up. There's a lot of that going on this time of year. You're going to see a lot of bars in May as our budget proposal. But that's what we're doing at this time of year. We're trying to clean up everything, get ready to wrap up the fiscal year end, expend our grants, get reimbursed from the state, submit all claims before the deadline. We're also getting some new budgets or increased budgets. You've got a bar on there, additional 1,000 of instructional materials. That's on there. We'll get that in budget before we close the year. May is our last chance to dance, as they say. Typically, the OBMS system through PED is shut down in June, and so bars can no longer be processed after May. So I would anticipate bringing you a lot more bars to clean up and make sure our accounts are squared away and audit finding free at year end. And any questions I can answer, I'd certainly like to.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Cole?
This is
Mr.
Ms.
Cole, I
Kirk.
have a quick.
Okay, let's hear Ms. Kirk first.
Okay, Mr. Cole,
Yes.
After we just had the budget meeting and the SEG was increased by how much? What was the?
3.39%. 3.39%
3.39%. Wow.
for the new fiscal year, the initial budget for the new fiscal year. Now, again, I want to reiterate the problem with that. So you've got two things going on in the current law. You've got an increase to SEG funding through your operational fund of 3.39%. Then you've got a required 4% average salary increase. So anytime we increase salaries, it increases the benefits because benefits are typically a percentage of the total salary, right? So we've got those two things going on there. So we're required to increase our recurring costs. Those are recurring costs to salaries and benefits. They don't go away, they keep going. But we know, or we have reasonable expectation to believe that that 3.39% will be cut in the special legislative session, along with a sweeping of any excess cash balances. So it does present a particular dilemma for all New Mexico school districts. I want to be very open and clear about that, because that is an issue that we're going to have to tackle together. And we won't be the only ones doing it. We're all in the same boat together. But do need to make clear that that's an issue we need to be thinking about. Yes, ma'am.
I heard somebody else had a question.
Back off that, that's going to present some interesting collective bargaining issues here in a couple of weeks when y'all start gathering for collective bargaining with a salary increase of 4%. Good luck.
It will, and I'll be, in all fairness, I will say this. Both union groups that we work with that represent our employees in one way or another have been very gracious and very good to work with the last 2 years. And so we're very fortunate that on both sides of the table, we have people that understand the issues, are following the issues, and are in the loop. And so I'm grateful for that. And I think we can continue to cooperate and pull off a win for our community and our staff, and certainly for our students.
Oh, Chad, I totally agree. I think that it's been a great working relationship with both collective bargaining units. It's just with our current budget, that's where I foresee the issue. But I know you'll work your miracles, Chad. Thank you for all your service.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ms. Kirk.
Did somebody else have a question for Mr. Cole?
Yes. Mr. Cole, this is Hope, and it's just a quick question. Are we going to be getting a refund for the travel and activities that we had to cancel?
Are we going to be getting a refund? So
Is
the school district?
Yes.
In most cases, I would say yes, but not in all cases. We know in particular with flights, flights are typically non-refundable. Which is why we make such a strong push that if you're booking a flight to travel to attend a conference, you better go to that conference and not cancel your trip if there's any way possible, or pass it on to the next person that can go in your stead. But in some cases, those things are not refundable by contract, and in most cases, those would be.
Were you referring were you referring to the students? Or
Well, no, for example, the school board had a couple of trips coming up for conventions and trainings, and I know because of COVID, there is some of the airlines are allowing for deferments or refunds, but even beyond those school board trips that I know were coming up, I'm sure there were other things like your recruitment and things that were being planned for lodging or whatever the case. I didn't know if we were losing all of that funding or if we were going to be able to reuse it for something else during this time.
So that is absolutely true, Ms. Morales. It's a great point to make. We are aware of it. We are trying to keep up with it. I'll be completely honest with you. You've got a lot more things that need to be done with a lot fewer people. And that's you know, kudos to the staff that have been able to overcome it through, you know, Zoom or, you know, whatever virtual platform or whatever to get there. But I'll tell you, you know, we've got some immune compromised folks that can't come in and or that need to be rotated in, and we're doing that. Everything is slowed down to some degree, but we're aware of it and we're working the problem. Again, the issue is that you have some that say, yes, absolutely, we're going to refund you your registration fees or whatever the case may be. And then some that have not chimed in on it either way. And then some that have said, no, we've got to hold you to that. And that's the essentially the contract you agreed to when you registered or whatever for this trip. So we're going to have to work on all of those as we go. But I will tell you that the bills are being paid, that the payroll is being made, and payments are going out. But I also need to be very honest with you. It's very difficult right now. It's very difficult because you've got to handle paper. And again, when you've got staff that are immune compromised, that becomes an issue. You've got to have the protective equipment and shuffle people around so they're not exposing each other and all those things. So we are working on it. I'll just tell you it's an avalanche at this point, and we're trying to dig.
And thank you, Mr. Cole. You bring up a great point, and I think that's the point I was trying to make. If you can just keep an eye, if we're saving funds on something, I want to make sure, like, if we could possibly use them now to better support people who have to work at home, or if we need more copies because of something, I just want to see if possibly there's extra funds available to better help the situation that we're in. And there may not be a lot of funds available, but definitely just wanted to bring it up to see if you can keep an eye for that.
Absolutely, I will, and it's a great point that you make, and I appreciate it. A lot of people have been asking, so what are we going to do? How are we going to save cash? How are we going to do this? You know, all those things, and it's all fair questions. Really, I'll tell you what this boils down to in the months, weeks, years ahead. This boils down to controlling our expenditures. We have to control our expenditures. We know that 85 to 90% of our school district's expenditures go to salaries and benefits. Those are recurring costs. Again, they don't go away. So the other expenditures outside of that 10-15% margin that's out there, that's not salaries and benefits, that's not utilities that you have to have when you're running a building, we've got to manage those expenditures. The other side of that equation is we've got to look for the alternative sources of revenue. I'm talking specifically about the Federal CARES Act, very similar to the stimulus dollars that were pushed out back in 2008-2009 timeframe. Now, historically, those are really tough to work with because they come with all kinds of additional reporting, additional strings, additional work. And of course, everybody will tell you, well, you don't need more people to do that work, but the truth is you can't get it done without them. But we've got to look for those alternative revenue streams, particularly through the Federal CARES Act. We've got to do it in a strategic fashion, and of course, we've got to manage our expenditures going forward. That's going to be huge, completely huge. And to your point, we are saving some costs on some things. So while we're still paying our people, our expenditures in that arena, the bulk of our expenditures are remaining the same. They're not going up, they're not going down. Things like utilities in our buildings are going down. So we're flattening in some areas, staying the same in most other areas. And again, where we're at now is trying to clean it up and get through the year, budget a new successful year strategically so we don't put ourselves in a bigger bind, and then move forward with whatever new legislation comes out of the special session. And my hat goes off to them because they're going to have a tough job ahead of them.
Thank you, Mr. Cole.
Yes, ma'am.
Anything else? All right, that marks the end of the agenda. May I have a motion to adjourn?
Oh, you had on here board communication.
Nobody called or told us that they wanted to communicate anything.
Oh, okay, well, I didn't know we had to.
Okay, well, yeah, it's been that way for a while, but, okay. Would you like to say something, Mr. Edwards? You can.
What?
You can say something. I'm not going to tell you no.
Okay.
But
I
we've
do
been doing
appreciate
work.
that, Alan,
Okay.
Mr. Getty.
But we've been trying to get it so that because per agenda and per the Open Meetings Act, if we're going to have something to say, we want it to be put on the agenda. So in other words, if you were going to talk about a particular thing, we'd like it on the agenda so that way somebody, and obviously today's a completely different situation, nobody's in the room. So somebody can't say today, well, they didn't know they were going to talk about that, and I didn't go to that meeting. This is streaming, so if you want to say something or do so, I'm okay with that.
I'd like to say, you know what? A lot of times the IT doesn't get the credit that they deserve. And I'm going to tell you right now, I am so happy with Mr. Royce for taking care of all of the IT. And I'm going to tell you that's a job nobody really wants. But I'd like to thank him and commend him on his staff and his professionalism that I've seen over the last couple of days. And, you know, so I'd like to just tell Royce thank you.
Just say a reminder.
And I'll piggyback off that, James, and say absolutely.
Okay.
Ditto.
Ditto. And we also want to thank all of our secretaries out there that have been doing all this, keeping everybody afloat, too. Yeah, as well.
I told you I'd leave somebody off.
Okay.
Thank you for that, Mr.
President,
Edwards.
I want to make sure I get in there and
Go
I
ahead.
give my thanks to Mr. Gottlieb, to all of his leaders downtown within the schools, our teachers. Something that most of the public may not know is we have been contacting Mr. Gottlieb and his team. I know I have been doing so daily, via text, emails, asking questions, pushing, giving ideas. This has been a very challenging time, so I thank you all for your efforts, and that includes all of our staff at the school level, right up to you, Mr. Gottlieb, so thank you.
That's right. Thank you. Hilda, did you want to say anything?
No, just say thank you to everyone, like the leaders and Mr. Gottlieb and all the secretaries also.
All right.
Everyone, thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Edwards, for pushing for that so that we got to say something. This is now the end of the agenda. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Mr. Edwards
I second.
made the motion, and who was that? That seconded?
Sanchez, second.
Mrs. Sanchez? Okay, great.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
roll call, please.
Alan Getty,
Yes.
James Edwards,
James, are we okay to adjourn? Say yes.
Yes.
Hope Morales,
Yes.
Mona Kirk,
Yes.
Hilda
Thank you.
Sanchez.
Hey, we're adjourned.
Hilda, are we okay to adjourn?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.